Have you ever just stopped and thought about how a country with over 1.4 billion people, the world's largest democracy, actually works? It's a massive, complex machine. Well, in the next few minutes, we're going to pull back the curtain and show you exactly how that machine runs. Let's dive in.
I mean, really think about that question. How on earth do you create a system to govern a sixth of the entire human population? Well, you see, the answer, the entire foundation, it all comes down to one single, truly remarkable document.
And that document is the Constitution of India. And we're not just talking about some dry, boring legal text here. Oh no, this is the very blueprint, the soul of the Republic. It lays out everything, the rights, the duties, and the entire structure of power.
And just look at the effort that went into it. For almost 3 years straight, some of the country's sharpest minds debated every single word, every comma. This wasn't just writing down some rules. This was a Herculean task to build the very idea of modern India on paper before it was a reality. And what a blueprint it turned out to be. Get this. The original version had 395 articles. That made it, and still makes it, the longest written constitution of any country in the world. And it's only gotten bigger. It's now over 470 articles. It was literally designed to cover every possible situation.
Now, some critics at the time said, hey, this is just a borrowed document. But Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the chief architect of the Constitution, had this brilliant way of looking at it. He basically said, look, good ideas don't have a copyright. Our goal isn't to be original for the sake of it, it's to find the best ideas from all over the world and adapt them for India. It was smart curation, not just copying.
Right, so you've got the blueprint. How does it actually turn into action? Well, it all starts with the first of 3 huge pillars, the legislature, which you probably know as Parliament. The easiest way to think of it, it's the nation's lawmaking factory. And this factory has 2 main chambers. First, there's the Lok Sabha, the House of the People. These members are elected directly by you, the citizens. This is the raw, immediate voice of the nation. Then you've got the Rajya Sabha, the Council of States. It's more of a house of elders, indirectly elected. And its job is to provide stability and hit the brakes, to give a crucial second look at every law, to stop any hasty decisions. So, how does a simple idea become the law of the land? Well, it starts life as something called a bill. It's just a proposal. This bill has to survive intense debates and votes in both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Only if it makes it through that entire gauntlet and gets the president's final signature does it actually transform into an act, which is an official law.
Okay, on to our second pillar, the executive. Now, if the legislature is the factory making the rules of the road, the executive is the one actually driving the car. They're the ones implementing the laws and running the country day in and day out.
And this is a really important distinction to get. The executive has 2 parts. You've got the political executive, that's the prime minister and their cabinet of ministers. They're elected, they set the direction. But then you have the permanent executive, the massive bureaucracy of civil servants. These are the experts who implement the policies, providing stability and know-how, no matter who's in power. And while India has a president who is the formal head of state, make no mistake, the real executive power rests with the prime minister. The PM is the true head of the government. They pick the ministers, they lead the charge in parliament, and they are ultimately the ones steering the entire ship of state. And that brings us to our third and final pillar, the judiciary. So if the legislature makes the law and the executive enforces the law, the judiciary stands as the ultimate guardian, the final referee, making sure everyone is playing by the rules laid out in the Constitution. And the judiciary's biggest tool, you could almost call it a superpower, is something called judicial review. This gives the courts the authority to look at any law or any government action and ask one simple, powerful question: is this constitutional? And if the answer is no, they could strike it down. It's the ultimate protection for a citizen's rights. Of course, for any of this to work, judges have to be independent. They can't be afraid of making unpopular decisions. So the Constitution builds in these amazing safeguards. It's incredibly difficult to remove a judge, their salaries are protected, and you can't even discuss their conduct in Parliament. This lets them be impartial. So there you have it, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. But here's the real genius of the system. They don't just work on their own in separate boxes. They're locked in this constant, complex stance of checking and balancing each other's power. For example, the legislature keeps the executive on a tight leash. If the Lok Sabha, the House of the People, loses faith in the government, they can pass what's called a no-confidence motion. It's basically the parliament's way of saying, we don't trust you anymore. You're fired.
Then you have the judiciary keeping the legislature in line. Like we said, Parliament isn't all-powerful. If it passes a law that breaks the fundamental rules of the Constitution, the courts can step in and blow the whistle, declaring that law invalid. They're the referee.
And then, to bring it all full circle, the executive, the government, gets to appoint the judges. Yep, the very same judges who might one day have to rule on that government's actions. It's this delicate, interwoven system designed so that no single branch can ever get too powerful.
So that's the blueprint in a nutshell. 3 powerful branches, all locked in a dance of checks and balances. On paper, it's the incredible engine that powers the world's largest democracy. But the big question, the one I want to leave you with, is this. Does this beautifully complex machine always work perfectly in the real world? And that is a thought worth pondering.